none of this is scripted. I wasn't actually going to speak today, but I'm Derek. I look after the UKCIA website, some of you know. We've had a very interesting past 12 months or so, and I thought you might like to hear what we've been involved with. As you will no doubt be aware, there's been something of a campaign by Rethink, who's already been mentioned, about cannabis and mental health. And I got quite heavily involved in this campaign, not on behalf of Rethink, on behalf of UKCIA, with another person who was at this conference last year, Helen, if you might remember her. What happened was in December 2004, Helen and I went down to London to a big conference at the Maudsley Hospital to discuss cannabis and mental health, and this was full of shrinks from all over the world and Rethink activists. And it's a very interesting conference. We met a lot of the famous names in psychiatry, like Zarin Attican and Robin Murray, people like that who you might have heard about over the past year. And we also talked with a lot of people at coffee time from Rethink about their campaign. Some of them, I have to tell you, were absolutely rabid anti-cannabis prohibitionists. Some of them weren't. Most of them probably weren't. Most of them were genuinely concerned about the situation and were just trying to raise it in an activist kind of sense. But while we were there, they told us about their upcoming campaign, which was about to be launched in January the next year. In January 2005, they launched their cannabis and mental health campaign. And they launched it on Radio 4 on the Today programme in the morning. And I woke up in the morning listening to Today, as I usually do. And on comes Cliff Pryor on the Today programme, along with Marjorie Wallace, who has nothing to do with Rethink. Marjorie Wallace is a one-man band who runs an organisation called SANE. Now, Rethink did their launch of their campaign. They said they wanted an education campaign to warn people of the dangers of cannabis and mental health, whatever they are. Marjorie Wallace piped up with, "We want cannabis reclassified to Class B." And she very nearly stole the Rethink campaign there and then, on air. Now, before this had happened, I'd been in contact with Rethink to say, look, there's a legal issue here. Cannabis is illegal. You can't know what people are using, what strength they're using, how much they're using, how pure it is, anything like that while it remains illegal. Will you make the law and will you make the legalisation of cannabis a part of your campaign? And they said, no, we can't. We cannot be involved in any debate to do with cannabis and the law. Okay, fair enough. So when they launched their campaign, and Marjorie Wallace jumped in with "We want it reclassified to Class B," they were obviously doing just that. Now, Rethink were rapidly getting sucked into a Make Cannabis More Illegal campaign. So I got back to Cliff Pryor, who's the guy who runs Rethink. I dropped him a mail and said, look, you told me you can't be involved in a legalisation debate. Why are you doing this? Discussions ensued, I think, within Rethink. And as a result of that, Rethink made it clear that they were not calling for Class B, and they put out a press release to that effect. And at that point, I think, which would have been probably February, late or March last year, the campaign to reclassify cannabis to Class B died because they didn't support it. I think that was probably the one big landmark thing that I've managed to do so far in this campaign. It wasn't the only reason cannabis wasn't reclassified. There were many other organisations like Release and Lifeline who lobbied hard to prevent it happening. But the fact that Rethink said they didn't want it was a major part of why it didn't happen. So where do we go now? What's going to happen? There's going to be an education campaign of some sort based around the Talk to Frank campaign about cannabis and mental health. What's it going to say? How's it going to do it? Who's its target audience? Nobody seems to know yet. But we should be there in this, because there's an awfully large amount of harm being done by prohibition. Not by cannabis, but because cannabis is a prohibited drug. It's laughingly called a controlled substance. Yeah, cannabis, the controlled substance. It is not. If anybody can tell me how cannabis is in any way a controlled substance, I'd love to hear you. It's controlled. Okay. Well done. Yes, it's controlled by criminals precisely. Yeah. If they are worried, if, and I say if, there is any truth in the theories or the ideas that cannabis can be a dangerous drug, and I'm not a scientist, I don't know the answer to that particularly, but if there is, then it's important, surely, that people know the doses they're getting, that people know the substance is pure, that it is just cannabis, and that there's no intimidation over the purchase of it. You know, if you've got trouble with your dealer, then you should be able to go to the plod to sort the problems out. And if people are ill, and if they're vulnerable people, surely the law should protect them. The law should not treat them as the enemy, which it does under prohibition. Yeah? So I see any upcoming education campaign about cannabis as requiring an element which points to the dangers caused by the law. And that we should try amongst us, I think, to quantify what those dangers are and to publish them. And that's where I want to go with this campaign over the next few months. So, that's it, really. Okay?
Okay. Thanks a lot, Joey. Thank you very much.